welcome to this complete army video. Haven't done one of these for a long time for the Tyranids, so pretty settled on the list here for these. It's always open for change, but played a good number of games with this list, taking into account as well I had to adapt a little bit for the recent points updates. The number of my units took a bit of a price hike, so I've had to readjust the previous list slightly, but I've managed to compensate for that, and so I've got a list here for you. The idea of this video is just to run through an entire list of Tyranids. It's the list that I'm running at the moment. And then from that you can copy the list, you can take elements from it, you can take some of the tactics and so on, because I'll run through everything here. So the army structure, the reasons why I've gone for particular upgrades, war gear, loadouts, unit choices and so on, all of that to be discussed here in this video. So a great way to pick up some tactics and some ideas for your own Tyranid army. And I try and run armies that have a nice theme to them, but at the same time you're trying to win a game, so there'll be some strong competitive elements in here as well. Not your standard copy and paste what everyone else is doing. I do like to sort of read through the book myself, make my own discoveries and try and come up with some combinations that work well. But that's the idea for this video, and you can check out the other videos in this series as well. But pretty much when I come to an army that I'm quite settled on, happy with the list, then we put out one of these videos just to give you the full lowdown of each force. So for discount 40k, do check out the OUTPOST. They do Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, a load of other gaming systems, hobby, paints, accessories, all of those things at a discounted rate. So it means you can pick up your Warhammer stuff cheaper. So the link for them in the video description below. When you use that link, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does give a little bit of a kickback to help support the channel. So for the Tyranids, which have been on the channel really kind of since the start, they've been around for a long time, and we've seen them take their highs and their lows. They were in a low area for a good while, not particularly strong. They lost the intimidation factor, but now they have a strong codex. It's good to see the Tyranids doing well and to see that fear return. So I want to try and have a list that focuses a fair bit on monsters. Been running with that theme for a while, so you're going to see plenty of beasties here in this list, and it's to try and get that intimidation factor, which you can get. Look at these brutes, Carnifexes. Now I run the red colour scheme here, like so, and we'll zoom in and take a look at the models in just a moment. I'm happy enough with that nice aggressive kind of red colour that the chitin picked out with that bony oranges and yellow colours coming through. But if I ever started fresh with Tyranids, it would be this colour scheme here. They look particularly nice. I really do like this colour scheme. So this is sort of one of the classic ones. This is Hive Fleet Leviathan. I've seen these, I'm pretty sure I've seen these painted up by someone that used purely contrast paints. That's some achievement to do that, and they looked fantastic. So that really opened for Tyranids. I think contrast paints have really opened up some great opportunities. So as a starter army, Tyranids would be an army I'd certainly recommend for sure. You can get some great colour schemes, some easy going colour schemes, where it's more about technique as opposed to like real fine detail painting and so on for armies such as the Eldar and the Harlequins. But for these, it's more about technique, so you could come up with an army pretty quick with a decent colour scheme. Despite their age, for some of the sculpts like these Carnifexes here in plastic, the models still look superb. They're brilliant sculpts. They look excellent. I mean, these just look fantastic. So Tyranids have a great model range, plenty of monsters. I think there's still room for more. You could invent some more monsters for sure. I mean, look at this Hive Fleet Leviathan. Absolutely fantastic model. Always love that colour scheme. So that's what I would have gone for, but happy enough with the red here. This is a very fast technique. So what we'll do is, before we get stuck into the rules and so on, we'll zoom in. The chance just to take a look at the models here, so we'll take a closer look. So this one's the Tyrannofex, painted up, glorious model. Size of this thing, absolutely huge. This is one of your artillery support pieces here. It's a tank killer. You'll see the rules for it later on. It features in this list. So I'm painting these up, spraying them red, putting a wash straight onto them to fill in all the details, giving them a highlight, just to look like a highlight, a little bit of orange here mixed up with the red. There's a full painting tutorial for these, and then I just start work straight away onto the chitin and the bone just here, a mixture of colours, and then you can see the teeth are picked out more of a white coming through. It's a straightforward technique. I've gone to sort of apocalypse level with the Tyranids now. This technique has meant I've been able to crank out a good number of these quite quickly. Don't want to get too hung up on details, but if you like the look of these, then there is the full painting tutorial, how to paint Tyranids, on the channel, and that will show you how to paint them to the standard that you see here. So do check that out. I'll show you a couple of others from the same kit. You can create a Tervigon as well. It's like the mama here that gives birth. You can see the sack that holds all the gaunts inside. You can see them bursting out here from the front. Now, I didn't put that in there, that's part of the kit, so it's an amazing sculpt, this one. Real nice. So there's that one. Another heavy artillery piece. I won't show you all the models, but you'll see them soon. But that's the Exocrine. It's again another artillery piece. I would say perhaps my pride and joy for the collection would be this guy here. So this is the Swarmlord. The quadruple blades, it's just incredible. Such a nice kit. Now from this kit you can go for the Swarmlord, you can also build a regular Hive Tyrant. There's loads of configurations that you can go for, all sorts of different combinations. But it's the Swarmlord that I've stuck with. And I wanted him to be as intimidating as possible, so just some rocks here, lifted him up a bit higher, stuck him on. And then his nickname is the Decapitator, so there's a load of heads on this base, like so. Blood Angels, a couple of Guardsmen, Space Marines obviously painted up in Ultramarines blue just to annoy James. And he has removed Gilliman's head in a battle. So James hates this thing with a passion. He's trying to build up a bit of a narrative of this thing. Obviously the blood dripping down on the rocks here as well. He's severed many a head with his blades. You could stop one blade, maybe two, but you can't stop all four when they're swinging. Fantastic model. There's others. You've got the regular Carnifex models as well, so you can go for all sorts of combinations of them. This is the Screamer Killer. So all the talons. I twisted him around, arched him up, so he's coming at that kind of angle. Really like the way he's coming out. And then zooming in, there's not much to see here. This list is running gaunts. Lots of them, but it's the same technique being used, just on a smaller scale model, so you can see it being used on a smaller scale. It means that when you're running the same technique, your army just unites as one, which you really want that for Tyranids. You want that harmonious look about them, because they're all the same, coming from the same hive, and so you want them all looking the same kind of colour scheme. So big scale, large, smaller scale, that technique seems to have worked just fine. You could swap the colours around, you could spray them up a different colour, follow the same kind of techniques, and swap the colours around. I can't see that being a problem. The other option now is contrast paints. You can get some great results. So that's a bit of a showcase there for the models. So plenty of battles with the Tyranids, plenty of Apocalypse games of them as well. We've sort of expanded the collection out for Apocalypse size as well, still featuring a number of our Apocalypse battles. So thinking about Tyranids, I like the idea of monsters, just big intimidating things moving across the board. The main focus is close combat, so with a close combat army, one of the main issues is closing the ground quickly and getting into close combat where your strength is. That's the issue for my Tyranids, closing the distance as fast as possible. The downside is that you don't do that and the opponent's able to blow you off the table, especially with shooting. So that's the downside and the danger for the Tyranids. You can be matched, perhaps outmatched in close combat as well. The usual rule for doing well is to try and strike first before you're struck, and to do that, faster units are particularly useful, where you're able to reach your opponent before they can reach you. You can make a big stride, get into close combat, get those first hits coming through before the opponent's able to strike back. And if you're able to coordinate that well, you can cripple an enemy in one round of decent melees and close combat. So that's the kind of thing I'm pushing for the Tyranids. To go purely close combat, I don't think it's a good idea. It doesn't really seem to work. To let your opponent have all their guns available is not so good. So you're going to see an element of firepower in this list as well. The idea is to neutralise some targets from long range. And the Tyranids now have some powerful units to do that. There's plenty of other bonuses for them. Good psychers as well. morale can be really good for them with synapse and so on. So there's definitely some strengths. And there's some very powerful combinations out there for sure. I'm going to show you my list, but there's all sorts of different styles and combinations that you can go for. So, Hive fleets first of all. Yep. I'm on Hive Fleet Behemoth here. So I'll show you the rules and that will give you an idea why. So think about the structure of the army. The structure that I've gone for is a double patrol because I need, for my particular list, I need an extra heavy support. So whether you think that's worth it, paying the extra 2 CP, because this force could be a battalion if I dropped one of the heavy support choices. I'll show you the list and you can think about that at the end for what to do. But that's the structure. Warlord traits and relics, not really. Running 1 warlord trait and that's it. So that helps keep the CPs available, which are very useful for the Tyranids. There's some decent stratagems for them, the rerolls and so on, very, very useful. Things like 4+ invulnerable save on the Swarmlord, a reroll being available for that's very useful. So for your normal grand tournament games now, Warzone Nephilim, 6 command points available. I'll spend 2 on the structure for the double patrol and then 1 on the warlord traits. So starting with 3, as soon as the game begins I'm going to get another one, so it's not too bad for command points. Hive Fleet Behemoth. So I think just the basic rules for these are strong enough. Each time a unit of this adaptation fights, if it made a charge move, was charged or performed a Termagant intervention this turn, then it's till that fight is resolved, it's +1 to strength characteristics. So you're just tipping up your strength, which is nice. You've got some units that need to try and get beyond strength, or toughness 7 or toughness 8, try and match that or get near it or beyond it, then any pluses to strength is very, very useful. So that's across the board. I've got a lot of monsters, so that's all going to give them +1 strength, which is nice and easy to remember, and it's strong enough, especially when it's like across your army. And the other reason why it's strong is if you charge, if someone charges you, you get it, and if you perform a Termagant intervention, you get it as well. Now the adaptive, and I just stick with this one, you can reroll charge rolls for units in your army with this adaptation, so +1 strength, and then rerolling charges across the board. I think that's a really strong combination, mightily useful. You can save yourself on command points. It means that you're not just getting one opportunity to reroll a charge across the board, but because it's army wide, everyone gets it, and it really, really helps. Especially because I'm trying to get an army that's trying to reach as many close combats as possible. And remember what I said at the start, I don't want to be charged. I want to get my charge off first, to inflict my damage first before the opponent strikes back. And so rerolling charges is really going to help with that. So that's all good. I think that's strong. It fits on my list nicely. Now in here you also get some warlord traits, psychic powers and so on. Now for the relic, I just don't really have a unit to apply this to for this list, but it's really strong. +1 damage characteristic for melee weapons. Now you really could make good use of that, but I don't have a unit to match that to, but that's really good. The warlord trait as well, each time this warlord makes a melee attack, unmodified wound roll of 6, inflicts a mortal wound to the target in addition to any normal damage. That one's okay. But the psychic power here, so you take the psychic power and it applies, all your psychers get it in the list, and they don't have to pay for it, or it doesn't take up any slots. They all get access to this. And I think this is a decent one. Unstoppable onslaught. So it's a blessings, warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one friendly Behemoth unit within synaptic link range of the psyker until the start of the next turn. Each time more than that unit makes a melee attack, it's +1 to the wound roll. So not +1 strength, but +1 to your wound roll. So very, very powerful. Very, very useful indeed. Because you can have loads of attacks, you get those hits, you have a high damage weapon, but if you struggle the to wound roll part, you know, you could get 10 hits and then it's like 5s to wound, only 2 wounds come through. It's not good. So anything that helps with that, so strength will help, but +1 to the wound roll is very, very useful indeed. So just that key combat, you're trying to wound a Lemurus with a Screamer Killer Carnifex, and you just, the strength is just not quite, you know, that vehicle's tough enough, and they're boasting a decent save, you're going to need help. So +1 to the wound roll is very, very useful for sure. So like that, and it's available across the board, so it's nicely placed around the list. And then you've also got Unparalleled Ferocity. It doesn't really fit my list, but that's available. It's not too bad. It helps out infantry units in close combat. That's the Hive fleet I've gone for. I've got +1 strength. If I'm being charged, if I'm charging correctly, intervening, I've got reroll charges across the board. I've got a decent psychic power. So I think that's all good stuff. And it fits the list. As you see the list form, you'll see how it fits in with this quite nicely. So what we'll do is we'll go now to HQ choices. We've got our Hive fleet. Really, when you're forming your list, you're thinking, what kind of army do I want? What style do I want? What do I want it to do on the battlefield? And then try and pick a Hive fleet to bonus that as much as possible. So I'm going for monsters, trying to get multiple charges off, trying to move as quickly as I can up the table, trying to hit as hard as I can in close combat. So Hive fleet Behemoth fits very nicely indeed. So, yeah, I would have gone for, I love the Swarmlord, but the second choice immediately after that, very, very close, is a configured Hive Tyrant. Some fantastic combinations out there, but it's the Swarmlord that I've got for this list. So here he is. He's a major focal point, glorious model. I've raised it up an extra 3/4 of an inch off the base just to give him that extra height. Absolute monster. He has that fear factor attached to him, and he's dangerous enough for sure. So there he is. Really like that model. The Swarmlord then, he has gone up in points. He's now 240 points. I'll put the list in the video description. You're welcome to copy that list, take elements from it. It'd be great to hear back from you in the comment section. If you're on YouTube channel membership, then do share on the Discord server how you're getting on with the list or elements of the list. You can share pictures as well on the Discord server. Members leave like their own battle reports and stuff, so that'd be great to hear that as well. But it'd be great to get feedback as to how people get on, so you can leave that in the comment section or over on the Discord server. So for the Swarmlord, he is 240 points. He is expensive, and so immediately I don't want him to die early on in the game. I'll try and be as wise and as cunning as I can with him. On full spec here, 9-inch move. He does fall into brackets. It'll be a 6-inch move at his lowest. It's not too bad, but 9 inches is quick enough across the board for something that's running on foot. Pretty good. Weapon skill and ballistic skill starting on 2+. They get affected by wounds as well, so dropping down to 4+. Strength 8, so it's nice high strength to start off with. His toughness 8, which is excellent. He's as tough as a tank. He's got 13 wounds. He's built like a tank, and the base number of attacks for him is 9 attacks, which is insane. Leadership 10 and a 2-up armor save. So the stat line for him is strong. He's a synapse creature, Shadow in the Warp. Psychic barrier, so he's got a 4+ invulnerable save across the board, so that's combat and for shooting, so that immediately adds a nice bit of durability for him. You've got Blade Parry, you really need to remember this one in close combat. Once per turn, the first time a saving throw is made against a melee attack is fouled for this model. The damage characteristic of that attack is changed to 0, it just deflects a blow coming through, which is very cool indeed. You can give some bonuses to units nearby. In your command phase, select one for any Hive Fleet core unit within synaptic link range to the start of the next command phase. Each time model that unit makes an attack, you can reroll hit rolls. So it's granted reroll hits. Now the great thing about Carnifexes is that they are core, so he can assist them. Really, again, try and get the most out of the Carnifexes as much as possible. He's not core, he can't bless himself. Plenty of core units for him to help. I'm running 5 Carnifexes in this list, so he can help them out with reroll hit rolls. Hive Commander, in your command phase, select one friendly core unit within synaptic link range to start the next command phase. The unit gains objectives secured. So you can put that onto a Carnifex. If that unit already has that ability, then they count as an extra model. And you've got death throws if he dies and there's people nearby. Nope, it's changed, and this is what I've been reminded about. On a 6+, the closest enemy unit within 6 suffers D3 mortal wounds, so he won't hurt his fellow creatures. He's also a decent psychic. He can manifest 2 psychic powers, and he can deny 2. He knows Smite and 2 powers from the Hive-minded discipline. So we'll cover that now. The psychic phase is not to be ignored for the Tyranids. you really can make an impact. So he's going to carry Smite already. He already knows Monstrous Onslaught to grant the +1 to the wound rolls, which could really help a unit nearby. The powers that I go for with him is one that he can cast on himself or someone else. So it's Onslaught. Yeah. So Onslaught. Warp charge value of 6, it's likely it's going to go off. If manifested, select one for any Hive fleet unit within synaptic link range. It's just a unit, so it doesn't have to be core, it can be anybody. So, models in that unit do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing assault weapons in the same turn in which they advance. Models in that unit do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing heavy weapons in the same turn that they moved. And the unit is eligible, this is the key one, the unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. So the idea of him, if I need to stretch to try and make sure I charge first before the opponent, I can move my 9, I can then advance, play that psychic power, hopefully it goes off, and then that will grant him advance and charge. Crucial. Or you can help out like a Carnifex that's pushed right up the board. I just need a few more inches, so I'll play that on the Carnifex, get it to advance and charge. It's a very, very useful power for sure. Just gives him a bit more stretch across the table. Again, just to emphasise, to make sure you fight first. Then the other one I go for, which I might do a combo. Say I've got a target in front of me that I want to put some wounds on with him. A really tough character, so I'm fighting Venom, for example. I'll try and smite him and hit him with some mortal wounds, and then back that up with Psychic Scream. So it's a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select the closest enemy unit within 18 of the Psyker. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you can like smite twice from him and just can blast some mortal wounds against the target. There's some extra rules there. If the unit has the Psychic keyword, you select one of their powers, and they no longer know one of those powers, so you can hit the Psyker with that. So I'm loading him up with psychic powers where he can kick out some mortal wounds, or he can bless other units and help them tactically. You can also help them with his abilities here of Hive Commander and Domination of the Hive Mind, and then you're also getting a model here that is tough for sure and deadly in close combat. So he's got the Bone Sabers. Remember, he's got 9 attacks coming through, +1 strength. So now he's on strength 9. I think it's Hive Fleet keyword, so he's going to get the Hive Fleet bonus. So now he's going to potentially strength 10, AP -4, and AP -4 is very, very useful now for Armor of Contempt. Just knocks it down a little bit more, and straight damage 3. So no nonsense, 3 damage across the board. If he swings well in close combat, he'll take out tanks, heavy infantry, just a general good all-rounder from him. And the fear factor, intimidation factor of him is big. Opponents do not like the Swarmlord, and so I think he fits in nicely with this list. So really the Swarmlord's going to make up my attack element of the army. I usually do this with forces that I put together. I have like a defensive force that's there to provide firepower support, and also to hold the back line to a degree. It's not as relevant now for 9th edition, but to hold objectives, to do any kind of secondary work as well that's required, harvested victory points that way, and then I have a dedicated chunk of the list that's there to go out on the assault as well. So you'll see that here. He's going to lead the assault, the attack, so you'll see the nasty attacking monsters and so on. He'll work with them. And then the next HQ choice is the opposites. This one's to sit at the back to a degree, either at the back or push up towards the middle of the table, to help secure objectives and to be more of the defensive part and tactical support part of the army. So for that, it is the Tervigon here. So glorious model, always loved the model. I don't think it was as good in the previous codex, but here I think it's particularly good. So nice big monster again. This will be like the cornerstone, the foundation of my defensive block for the army. So we'll shift him, put him down here. We'll stick the Tervigon there. So for the Tervigon, you're looking at 215 points. It's another investment here. For that, you're getting something that's built nice and tough. We'll explain the reasons for taking this as we go along. So movement 8. So it's alright, it's quick enough. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, which is pretty good for this monster. Strength 7, again, toughness 8. 17 wounds. It's a fair bit to bring this thing down 4 attack space, leadership 10, and 2+ armor save. So she's tough enough. So she's equipped with a bit of a sting in the tower here with her. It's massive scything talons. So for those, she can do two hit rolls instead of one. Strength to use open -3 and 2 damage. Not bad, like 8 attacks. Or she can strike with +3 strength 10, -4 and 2d3 damage. It's dangerous enough there in close combat. So the massive crushing claws, those are dangerous. They're ×2 strength, so it'll be strength 14, -5 and d3 +3 damage. I'm not gearing her up for close combat, so I don't want to pay any extra for close combat abilities. I'll just check here to see if it's free of charge. It is, yeah. I'm not sure which one I'd take. I do like the idea of extra attacks if you need them for the massive scything talons. The claws are dangerous enough. So either of those two options doesn't cost you any extra either way. So a pretty good close combat option, but I resist the temptation to send her in. It's only as a last resort. Synapse creature again. She's a psyker, so you can manifest 1 psychic power and deny 1. So for her, I go for Neuroparasite, I think. Yes, Neuroparasite. Like a supporting psychic power, warp charge value of 7. Select one enemy unit within synaptic link range of the psyker, so this can be stretched quite far, or within 18 inches, so you get a pretty good stretch on it. Roll 1d6 for each model in that unit. For each roll that exceeds the model's toughness characteristic, it's a mortal wound to maximum of 6. So you really could hit a target quite well with that one. And you have big blob of Necron warriors, 20 dice, looking for 5s to cause mortal wounds, dangerous. 20 conscripts or regular guardsmen, squad of 10 of them. 4 pluses to cause mortal wounds on 10 dice or 20 dice, whatever it is. So I quite like Neuroparasite. It's one of the newer psychic powers. So you take that one. You can combine it with Smite because you can use a stratagem to let you manifest an extra psychic power. So you could kick out 2 from her just for a CP. So what we've got here is a tough beast. Can do a little bit of psychic power, but the main reasons for taking her is the extra rules here. So, spawn Termagants. So in your command phase you can do one of the following. You can select a friendly Termagants unit within 6 inches, restore up to 2d6 destroyed models. You're averaging about 6 models being restored, and you can just do that from one turn to the next. So now I've got Termagants in my list. They're going to go out onto objectives, do actions, raise banners and so on. And now if and when they take damage, which is highly likely, she's going to start replenishing them back onto the board. The other option, once for battle, I usually do this on turn 1, is you can spawn a brand new unit of Termagants. So it's a squad of 10, it can be set up within 6 inches. So you're going to get a unit for free. I think that's worth 70 points straight away. And the ability to restore models as well. Now if she's tucked away and looked after, protected, which there's a way to do that, she can immediately generate 70 points at the start of the game. And then when that damage starts coming through, she can restore 60-70 points to units that have taken damage for Termagant units. So she can really start paying points back quite rapidly in a battle. And in a good game, she'll pay back all her points just by spawning and returning models to play. So I very much like the Tervigon. She's also got Brood Progenitor. In your command phase, select one Hive Fleet Termagant unit, so she works well with them within synaptic link range. If this model has not already been selected for this ability until the start of your next command phase, each time model in that unit makes a ranged attack, it's add 1 to the attack's hit roll. So you can boost the range attack on Gaunts, which actually, as you'll see, is not too bad. Yeah, it's +1 to hit roll. And you also got Wall of Flesh. Whilst the friendly Termagant unit is within an inch of this model, if that unit contains 15 or more models and is closer to enemy models than this model, those enemy models cannot target this model with ranged attacks. There's a little bit of look out the Sir type stuff going on with her as well. Yeah, and it's quite good in the game when your opponent says, I'm going to fire at that monster, and then you say, oh no, the Gaunts are protecting her. It just creates a conundrum, creates a problem for the opponent. They've got to try and bring the Gaunts down first in order to get through to the monster. And usually I found they just select another target and that keeps her alive, so that all helps So it's a good rules here, nice and straightforward, I like the rules here for the Tervigon. So she is in. So she'll be at the heart of my middle of the table backline defence. She'll be replenishing gaunts, she'll spawn a new unit, kicking out some psychic powers, blessing them each turn, so on and so forth. Now there's another bonus as well with Synaptic Imperative abilities. If you look up Tervigon, Surging Vitality, this is once per game. Whilst the Synaptic Imperative ability is active, your army of friendly Hive tendril units within 6 inches of this synapse model, so that'll be, well, it could be all sorts of units, perhaps at the start of the game. When it's selected to make a normal move or advance to end that phase, add 2 to the move characteristics of models in that unit. So it's a bit of a bonus, especially at the start of the battle when you're looking to surge ahead, perhaps to get onto objectives quickly. She can give you a bonus plus 2 inches to your move. Now, if there's Screamer Killers near her, that's a 10-inch move plus 2, and then plus maybe another one for Adrenal Glands. So you just give a big bump start to your force, just have a little bit of a surge, a surging vitality, Synaptic Imperative ability from her. So factoring all that together, I think she's an excellent HQ choice. And if and when the opponent does try and target and able to get turbo shooting on close combat, you've got a 17 wound model to try and get through. A toughness 8 and 2 up save. Nice bit of durability, nice bit of an anchor for the Tyranids here. So now I've got 2 HQ choices. I've got my attack, so you can imagine attacking off the up the table. She's pushing up to hold the middle back line, and don't want to get into involved with the close combat fighting, want to protect her and so on. But there's a gap in between the two. So then comes the third HQ choice. I've already blown out a fair bit of points, so this is sort of my link between the two here for Synaptic link range to be able to pass powers on and abilities and so on. So this one's sort of a medium, middle of the table type of push from this thing. Just again, being careful. It's the Neurothrope. So that's what you can imagine here, back line, middle, and then front line. Is the idea, and then they stretch in between. So usually you'll see my Tyranid force go for the direct assault down the middle of the board. Usually, something like that. So Neurothrope is a regular HQ choice. I'm running a double patrol, so plenty of slots for HQs. So Neurothrope is straight 100 points. And I'm looking for this thing to work hard with blessings and abilities, and a good psychic phase is what I'm looking for. So movement 6, so combine that movement 6 with advance, and then you're not too bad. There's no real pressure on this thing to move particularly fast. It's not going for the main assault, but you sort of need to place it quite well. 6 wounds, 5 up save, but it does have an invulnerable save of 3+, which is excellent. It's got Spirit Leech, so regaining wounds from enemy units back onto itself. It rarely happens, I think it's happened yet in a game. There's Psychic Node, +1 to Psychic tests, excellent, just need to remember that in games. And then Warp Siphon in your command phase, select one for any Hive Fleet Psycho unit with Synaptic link range. So if this unit's not already been selected for this ability this turn, to the start of your next command phase, each time a Psychic test is taken, roll additional d6 and discard one of the dice. It's 3d6 on Psychic tests. That can help this, or any of these two, with their psychic abilities. So, for example, I want to make sure that I'm able to use Onslaught. That's a real important part of the game, the plan. Then I'll stick that Warp Siphon on him, and now it's 3d6, choosing the best two to try and make Onslaught go off. So it's just sort of a helping hand, a middle helping hand for the list here with a cheaper Neurothrope being taken. It's decent Psycho, +1 to Psychic tests, it can manifest 2 Psychic powers, and it can deny 2 as well, so excellent. It's got Unstoppable Onslaught, I think it's that Psychic power across the board, so it's got access to that. It can smite, and then really, as I give it Neuroparasite again, Neuroparasite again, I could swap that out. I could take Psychic Scream again just in case he dies. I've got the ability to keep kicking out those mortal wounds. Neuroparasite is quite useful. And then the other one I take is Catalyst, which again is like a helping psychic power. I could put it on her, put it on him, put it onto the Carnifexes or one of my weapon beasts, just to give them that 5+ feel no pain, just to try and really add to the durability. And 5+ feel no pain on a model with a lot of wounds really is worth it. So decent, helpful psychic power. So I think the backbone for my HQ slots here is looking healthy enough. It's got quite a good game plan going on. We know what the function is for each of these, what's expected of them. So that's the HQ choices here. So really, what we're looking to do now is to flesh out these two elements. This is the link between the two. Now we've got these two elements of the army. We want a highly aggressive, high damage, fast attack element, and then I want a durable, bulky firepower support element of the army across here. So we're going to put units in to fulfill those two roles, and then when the whole thing's combined together, you've got a decent assault that's well supported with firepower and objective grabbers, so these have got a license to kill on the table, is the idea. So we'll just make way for the rest here. So we'll go on to troops. We'll just go in the logical order here. So thinking about troops, the obvious choice is I have to go for gaunts. Termagants here. Now I was running larger numbers, but the points hike, I've siphoned models away from this just to pay for the extra points that have been spent. So this list comes to 1998 points. I've maxed out as much as I can with Termagants. Now bearing in mind, I'm already getting a unit for free, highly likely on turn 1. So I've got 10 to start off with. And then I'm going to take 3 more squads, because I know firepower is going to come and they're going to get attacked, shot at, close combat. I'm going to lose a unit potentially. So I want to flesh my army out nicely. So I'm going to take 3 squads of them. And just 1. So I got loads of these. I've painted up tons of them for apocalypse battles. Basically going to run a squad of 17, just the way the points have worked out, and then 2 squads of 16. So all 3 of those squads tip over that point where they're able to protect her. So that means the opponent now has to try, and if I deploy all of these within range of her, he's got to take off models from all 3 units in order to get to her. So just creating further headache for the opponent. So I'm just going to lay these out off camera here, and then you'll see how they bulk out the list. And there we are. So that's squad of 17 here, squad of 16 running across the top of the page, and then a squad of 16 across there. But I love the look of these, just the way you've got this horde effect. It's a great thing to do for Tyranids, where you can get loads and loads of models that are the same, and just to fill out the table to create that horde kind of effect, the swarm look for the Tyranids. If you're able to do that, it doesn't have to be gaunts, it could be Termagants as well as, or Termagaunts is another option as well. But for these, if you're going to go assault, take Termagants, they're going to move quicker. If you're going to go defensive and sit on objectives and so on, then Termagants is the option. So they work out at 7 points each. So my largest squad of 17 is 119 points, and then my 2 squads of 16 is 112. That's cheap. So for a few hundred points, I've bulked the army out like massively. Look at the bulk of this. Now remember, there is another 10 to add to that at the start of the game as well. So we're going to flesh the board out nicely with these. Termagants, I think, have received a massive improvement. They're nice and cheap. Movement 6. So ballistic skill of 4+. They're alright at shooting. You can then get a 5+ save them. I think it used to be 6+. Their save has improved. You start sticking them in cover, getting a 4+ save. You can put catalyst on them. The flesh borer has vastly improved. It was a 12-inch range. It's now an 18-inch range, which is excellent. So for like 9th edition games, 18 inches is pretty good. It's assault 1, so you can advance and still shoot with them. And then their strength 5. Strength 5 is superb against infantry, space range and so on, wind on 3s. Bit of AP minus going on as well, good for clearing out guardsmen and stuff. And then damage 1. So all of that's pretty good. You then get... Yeah, I'm just checking a few things here with these. Yeah, it's interesting. Swarming masses as well. Each time each unit fights, models in each unit can fight if they're within engagement range of enemy units. They're within 2.5 inches of enemy units, so you've got a bit of... You can still fight at pretty good depth with them. If in the fight phase, the unit is subject to any other rules that would reduce the number of models from that unit they're able to fight, then neither those rules nor the swarming masses rules take effect for that phase. So there's that to bear in mind. But really, I'm not looking for them to get into close combat. It's usually not a good situation if they find themselves in close combat in the game. But shooting option, not too bad, because a fair bit of DAC are available with those, and it can be improved. They're a core unit choice, so you can bless them with some of the blessings we've talked about already. Reroll hit rolls, for example, if you need them to kick out some decent firepower. In fact, there's something I need to add. Yes. As I talked about a Warlord trait at the start of the game, that's been given to the Neurothrope. He's in the heart of the army. I take direct guidance. In your command phase, select one friendly Hive Fleet core unit within synaptic link range. There's that link being talked about again. To the start of your next command phase, each time model that unit makes an attack, so this is shooting or close combat, it's +1 to the attack's hit roll. So, he can bless for shooting, these, or one of my shooting core options, which I've got some shooty Carnifexes, can help them, or for close combat, so one of the Carnifexes, for example. So that's very, very useful. Found that to be useful enough. All of a sudden you can push a larger unit of these up to 3s to hit for shooting, which is superb. Now on top of that, there is a useful stratagem that is available for Termagants, Termagants. Now it can catch the opponent unawares, because down through the editions the presumption is that these are rubbish. But all of a sudden, if you use Scorch Bugs, it's the first stratagem. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when Hive Fleet Tendril unit from your army is selected to shoot until the end of that phase. Add 6 inches to the range. So all of a sudden you can ambush the opponent, catch them out, and get a 24-inch range from a unit of these. And then you can really combo it, so you can go for +6 inches on the range. You can give reroll hit rolls from the Swarmlord. You could give them, I think, +1 to hit rolls from the Tervigon, and you can give them, so you're looking at 3s to hit rerollable. You could deliver a very accurate salvo from them, and then on top of that, add 1 to the strength, so you go from strength 5 to strength 6. So if that unit has 16 or more models, it's cost 2 CP, otherwise it's 1 CP. So it depends on the size of the unit, but you could really deliver a decent volley from them. So I like the Termagant, so I like the whole feel of it, and they look correct with the Tervigon. They just match up really nice. It's very satisfying in a game just to see damage coming through against them. The opponent doesn't get the wipeout. If you place them quite carefully, and then you just start replenishing the models coming through, and then just letting off volleys with them. So not too bad. Now, acting as an anchor with the Tervigon, I can then work out like a tendril with these. So she'll push ahead, and then I'll feed them out like tendrils to grab multiple objectives and just spread out. It looks very cool on the battlefield, and you've got quite a stretch. So, correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I can go for a stretch like this. You've got to maintain coherency with each model needs to be a range of 2, so you can go for a condensed stretchy conga line here, just to show you how far you can reach. So the first model within 1 inch of her, so that they act as protection for it. And then, so I've got an objective over here. I'll then need to put a second one right next to it, as you'll see. Then I can start my conga line. I've got to go tight from base to base though. Just make sure. So this model here, for example, is within range of 2, and just do that all the way along, like so. And look how far I can stretch onto an objective. And then when you, I can even stretch that further. When you reach an objective, we've reached it here already. The last model can't go like this at the end, because it can only reach 1. So I need to park him back so that he's able to reach 2, like that. So you just do a lump at the end and a lump at the start, and then conga along. So then it creates a bit of a conundrum. If you're going to start taking heavy casualties, then you've got to choose where to take them from. Can't fin out this. You can decide to fin from there or from the front. If the objective's closer, then I'll just stack models on the objective here to absorb the damage coming through. And if the objective is there, I can take all these, stretch back, and still, if one model can reach, then I'll still count as holding it. So there is that to bear in mind. I'm not looking to expose these too much or to land them in too much trouble, so we'll try and protect and place them as wisely as possible. Obviously they'll melt away under extreme firepower, but if they're not wiped out, I can replenish. The other thing to bear in mind is that this isn't the vanguard of my force. These will be pushing up through the middle. The opponent's got other stuff to be worrying about usually. They're trying to deal with screamer killers and so on, heading straight towards them very, very quickly. This is going to be a low priority for them, for their firepower, so that works in their favour as well. So that's my defensive back line. As far as objective grabbers are concerned, I'm not too reliant upon their shooting and treat it as a bonus. So if I do need to use them to perform an action, for Nachman data or for raising banners and so on, then they can go ahead and do that. That's one of their main jobs on the battlefield. That's troops, that's all my troops done. So there's all sorts, there's such variety here. One of the options I've been thinking about is Tyrant Guard. I think they can protect a Swarmlord. A squad of 3 of those would be quite cool. So I know the Swarmlord's going to get shot at. I was running Lictors. I hope that Games Workshop will do a plastic one. It'd be amazing if they do that. So, but none of these. I know Zoanthropes are the go-to choice. A lot of people using those. They're very powerful and so on, but I haven't gone for them. Genestealers, I used to run a lot of those, but not at this stage. They took a bit of a hit. Raveners, they're okay, but not really. Morlocks, alright. Trigon's okay. So, yeah, we're actually straight on to heavy support here. So now what you're going to see is some long range firepower support, and then now the attacking element of the other. This is soft at this stage, there's not much to it, it's just a lone Swarmlord. I need help. So we're going to bulk out the assault and also provide some decent firepower. So first one, just in order here, is the Exocrines. This is a model I'm thinking maybe of dropping here. He's costing me the 2 CP to put him into the list, but it's decent artillery here. It's very, very useful. So, nice big model. Gonna put him, I'll tuck him in there. Straight 200 points, but for that you are getting a big beast. Movement 8, so it's not too slow. Movement 8, so alright. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+. So you are starting off on 3s to hit for shooting. It is toughness 8, strength 7, so nice and tough. 15 wounds, plenty of wounds. 3 attacks, not going to rely on it in close combat at all, and then 2 up armor save. So there is a decent bit of toughness to this thing. So the main reason for taking this thing is the main gun, the bioplasmic cannon. If you can fire this from one turn to the next, it is dangerous. It can decimate targets. It is a powerful weapon. Range 36. So you usually see this thing not anchoring at the back. It's not requires that too much. It's more of a pushing up support. Although it is vulnerable to being tapped out in close combat, so watch out for that. But pushing up to the 1/3 of the way up the board is pretty good. Range 36, nice reach, but you may well need to manoeuvre to get in sight to fire at targets. Range 36, heavy D3 +6, so at least 7 shots, if not 9. His blast, so you can max that if the target's big enough. He's a real danger for Primaris. Gravis type units are in big trouble. Strength 8, AP -4, which is excellent. Damage, straight damage 3. So a decent weapon beast for sure. Powerful limbs, pretty useless in close combat. 3 attacks, AP -1 and 2 damage. You've got symbiotic targeting. In your movement phase, if this model remains stationary, it moves as a total distance of less than half its movement characteristic until the end of the turn. Each time this model makes a ranged attack, it strips away light cover, or the benefits of cover against that attack. So you can take light cover away. Again, quite useful for flushing out targets such as Space Marines, Gravis units from cover. So yeah, I'd say it's good. But that's a unit that you can leave your own suggestions in the comment section. I've got 200 points to play with if I drop him. If I do drop him, bear in mind I'm going to lose some firepower. So yeah, not so sure. Not so sure on that one. Okay, so then what we'll bring in, I think maybe I'll skip over these. We'll come back to the Carnifexes, and we'll bring in the Tyrannofex next. So this thing, fantastic model. One of my favourites. Absolutely superb. It does have the fear factor. James hates them. Hates the gun. I love the gun, I think it's great. So we'll put him in just here. Look at the way the army's bulking out nicely, these big glorious monsters. And the other great thing is when you take the hordes, these low level models, it just really emphasises the height and scale of these. The two just acting in contrast to just complement each other that way. So the Tyrannofex isn't too bad actually in points. I think it's coming in at 190. It's actually cheaper than the Exocrine. I could take a second one of these with 10 points to spare. I do have one painted up. Movement 9 on this thing, actually moves a bit quicker. I go for the Rupture cannon. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, starting on 3s to hit, which is great. Strength 7, toughness 8, 17 wounds on this thing. Loads of wounds. 4 attack space, leadership 7, a 2-up save. So it's just a beast. Now, there is, 1 CP, rapid regeneration, nice and cheap now. Restoring D3 wounds on a tendril unit. If you are taking damage, you can just, for a CP, just knock the wounds back up D3. You can do that once per turn, so that's very, very useful. So the Rupture cannon, it does come with Stinger salvos, which is 8 shots, now hitting on 3s. Pretty good for flushing out infantry like guardsmen and so on. Range 24 on that, nice stretch, strength 5, -1, 1 damage. There's no extra abilities, really it's the emphasis is on the gun. Rupture cannon, range 48, superb range. This will take on the tanks, the opponent's tanks and monsters. Strength 14, 8 -4 and D6 +4 damage. It's a scary model. Yep. And you're miles away, you're 48 inches away, so the opponent's got to use their big guns to try and take it down. But again, they're usually being distracted by Carnifexes in their face and using the heavy guns against them. So you're a fair bit of the time finding that these don't get shot at. And if I can just keep these firing from one turn to the next, then that is good. If the opponent does go after them and they're not shooting at my Carnifexes, then that's not a wise move, because then the Carnifexes are going to strike their target. So creates a headache for the opponent. What do? They try and take out the heavy support at the back, ignore the Carnifexes, or if they focus on the Carnifexes, it's going to be, they're going to get battered by artillery. So it seems to work quite well. So Termagants is in. So now I've got my units that are going to grab objectives. I've got my HQs connecting the whole thing together, and I've got a couple of weapon beasts here to provide that stretch with heavy firepower to neutralise targets from long range. And if the opponent goes after them, they're built like tanks, so very, very tough. So that's our combination now. So now I'm looking to add the bite to this list here, and for that I'm going to use Carnifexes, which received a massive improvement from Games Workshop. They're very strong in the codex, loads of variety, the rules are strong, and I'm going to show you a couple of combinations that you can use for your own Tyranid list. Right, so for Carnifexes, I'm actually going to run 5 of them, because I'm thinking if I run 5, the opponent's going to try and take out a couple of them, and I'm still left with 3. If I run 2, 3 of them, start taking casualties, my Carnifexes are gone. So I want them to dominate the table as much as possible, just anticipating casualties coming through. So the first is a brood of 2. I've got 4 heavy support slots. I've used up 2, so you can brood these together, which is useful. 1 to 3 Carnifexes in a brood. So it's these 2 here. I've actually configured these correctly. These will be shooting and close combat, so it's like a mixture of the 2, and they can do both very well indeed. So these will be my medium 2/3 the way up the board supports. These will move up, provide firepower support, and if and when they need to and the opportunity's there, they'll quite happily charge into close combat, especially against heavier targets, characters, other monsters and so on. But the 2 of those work together as a brood. They'll then, when the game starts, they can then break up and go their own way. So the Carnifex, movement 8, so they've improved the movement on these. I think it used to be movement 7, it's a little bit quicker. Weapon skill 3+, which is fine. Ballistic skill 4+, which is alright, and then we can improve it. Strength 7, they are quite low on strength, so we'll compensate for that. Toughness 7, 9 wounds, there's plenty of wounds, almost as many wounds as a tank, and then 4 attack space, leadership 6 and a 2-up save. So stat line's okay. For this one I'm going for shooting and close combat. So for the shooting element, I'm taking the heavy Venom cannon. So I'm looking for some anti-tank ability with these. Anti-heavy infantry, mostly sort of anti-tank, anti-monster. The idea is that the opponent shoots and destroys this, what have I got left? So I'm trying to offload some of the responsibility onto other units for long-range firepower support. I don't want the opponent setting up all the heavy guns, screened and shielded, and I can't get to them with heavy stuff. I need to be able to reach over the top of stuff with some decent firepower. So we're looking at 115 points as your starting cost for Carnifexes, 10 points to take the heavy Venom cannon. You've got range 36, so if they're moving up the table, you're going to stretch and reach across the board quite comfortably. Heavy 3, so I know I'm getting those 3 shots. The Carnifex, there's no damage bracket on these, so if I've got 1 wound left, I'm still hitting at the normal ballistic skill. Strength 9, which is excellent, trying to win those toughness 8 targets like Liam Rushes and so on. AP -3, which is okay, and then damage 4, which is excellent. Nice, solid, reliable firepower, and it's great sometimes you play a game and you fire with these, you hit a target, and the opponent's just jobs. I've failed a couple of saves, you know what damage is it, and you say, oh, it's damage 4. It comes as quite of a shock. Here, damage 4 is superb. You know what kind of damage is coming through, and so you really can cause trouble. Really good, and the pair of them working together, that's like guaranteed 6 shots each time coming through. So all of that is excellent. I then really want their firepower to become really good, reliable. So I then take, well worth it, 10 points to take enhanced senses. Now I've got ballistic skill of 3+. So you've got Carnifexes now kicking out solid, reliable, heavy firepower here. Really good. Now remember our HQ choices from earlier on. The Warlord trait +1 to the hit rolls. The Swarmlord, I think, granting reroll to the hit rolls. They're onto core units. These are core. So now you can give 3 up ballistic skill with +1 to the hit rolls, 2s to hit, or you can give 3s to hit re-rolling. And sometimes you'll see in the games, if I'm in range, I'll bless a power on each of those. So one of them will be hitting on 2s, the other one will be hitting on 3s, re-rolling. And that is solid, reliable firepower. Now, we're moving up the table, providing firepower support. They're intimidating, they're nasty units in close combat, so then I want to make them have a bite in close combat. So I take, as modelled on here, the Carnifex Crushing Claws. You have to take 2 of them down here. So you can take 2 Carnifex Crushing Claws, replacing the Siphon Talons on them, and they're 5 points each, so it's another 10 points. So you've got 115 points, 5 for the Heavy Venom Cannon, sorry, 10 for the Heavy Venom Cannon, 10 for Enhanced Senses, and 10 for the Crushing Claws, makes 145 points each. You've nicely kept them under 150 points at times, so it's not too bad a hit if one of them goes down. So in close combat, we were saying earlier on your strength's quite low, strength 6, but the Crushing Claws give you +4 strength, so that's wiped out that problem. You know, strength 10. For Behemoth, strength 11 on the charge if you are charged or heroically intervene. AP -3 in close combat, and again, solid reliability in close combat for damage. D3 +3 damage each time. So they will smash their way through vehicles. Heavy infantry, a killer character. Right, and then their base of 3s hit means those hits, a good number of those hits are going to come through. 4 attacks base. Then you've got further bonuses, just tips these in from good to excellent. So Armored Exoskeleton, -1 damage against them. Fantastic. Just across the board, -1 damage, excellent. It really annoys the opponent, like they'll say, oh, these are all damage 2, and you say, oh, it's -1 damage, you just wrecked the whole plan. You know, 12 damage becomes 6 on damage 2, that's so useful. You've also got Blistering Assault, so each time the model fights, if you made a charge move, performed heroic intervention, you get an extra attack as well, so now you get 5 attacks each, just really helps getting those hits coming through. And that's it. So it's an excellent unit. So now it's a general all-rounder, this one. I can go aggressive with it, no problem at all. It's got that durability, and then if and when it does reach close combat, it will crunch into stuff and cause havoc. And all of that for 145 points. So I've just run 2 of those. So they'll move around, hang around with the Swarmlord, they'll push up, but at a pace, you know, 8 inches at a time. Let's have a little look here. Yeah, you've got to be careful. The Venom Cannon is heavy 3, because I don't want to be advancing with it. Because I want to shoot. You know, if it's an assault weapon, you could do that. But so these will move. I'll place these, but I don't want to put myself under pressure where they need to rush to join the advance. I just want them moving up 8, knowing that they're going to do that, and they can just let off 1 volley every turn. And then as targets come up, they can charge them when the opportunity arises. So I think it's a solid choice. If you've got your own combinations for Carnifexes, leave it in the comment section. It'd be great to see the different options that are out there. But that's your sort of moving, shooting, combat combo, which both are reliable, you know, deadly in combat, highly accurate, anti-tank firepower available, all on a regular Carnifex. So that's those. Then I take, this is the final unit really, so the army's bulked out quite nicely. Remember there's another 10 of those to come. I then take, this is the real tip of the spear, throwaway kamikaze vanguard units. It's Screamer Killers. And these are excellent. So I take 3. 3 of them. 1's okay, but they'll be shot at. 2, the opponent thinks, yeah, I can deal with 2. 3 is like, oh no. It's too many. So I think 3 is a good number. So you're maxing out the brood again. So I've now got my 4 heavy support slots taken up. But a brood of 3 of those, and they can split up during the game. But the idea for these is just to go headlong towards the opponent and cause trouble. And trouble they certainly do cause. So Screamer Killers, separate entry for these, but I'll run through these next and show you how good they are. So Screamer Killers, I think are 130 points. Yeah, they took a price jump. So it did start 115, but they've jumped now to 130 points because they are really good. So I pay, just go for the upgrades here. There's a number of good upgrades for them, but I do take Adrenal Glands for them. So that's an extra 10 points, 140 points in total. So again, you're still keeping them nicely below 150. So it's not too big a loss when one of these drops. It's a bigger loss when I lose one of the larger monsters or the Swarmlord. 240 points for him. So that's quite a loss. But when each one of these goes, it's not too bad. So 140 points for the Screamer Killer. For that you're getting, this is incredibly good, 10-inch move, which is so quick. Because I'm taking the Adrenal Glands upgrade, here it's bear gains Adrenal Glands keyword, add 1 inch to move characteristics and a jumping up to movement 11, and +1 strength as well, all round, not just on the charge but across the board. So strength 6 becomes strength 7, and then that extra strength on the charge. You're nicely pushing the Screamer Killer up. Because you want it wounding big vehicles on 5s, it's not very effective. You want to try and tip that to 4s, 3s to wound much better. Because with damage 3, you want them taking down vehicles. You want them to, whatever they charge into, you want it to be in trouble. So you don't want them scratching and stabbing, being ineffective against vehicles. So trying to push that wound roll up as much as possible is useful. And then the other thing is, if you can get your strength up to strength 8, then it's 2s to wound targets of like toughness 4 and so on. So you can take a brood of up to 3. That's what I've done. Weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 6, toughness 7. 9 wounds again, the same profile leadership 6, but here look, 10 attacks. Again, mad, crazy good. 2 up save. Remember the -1 damage for this thing, excellent. With armoured exoskeleton, it does come with blistering assault as well, so you're getting the extra attack on the charge, or if it performs heroic intervention. Now you've got 11 attacks coming through, which is excellent. There is a terrifying -1 leadership as well. So everything else is the same. So war gear on this thing, it does actually come with a shooting option, which is very good to have that added on as well. So bioplasmic scream, range 18, assault d6. So you can still, because it's assault, it's very useful. You can still make your advanced move, trying to push up the table. Still get to shoot that, so that's good news. Strength 8 on the shooting weapon, AP -4, 1 damage, and blast. Maybe actually deadly if it was damage 2, but they've made it damage 1, so you can use that to hit infantry targets and so on. Sometimes I'll fire 3 of them at the same target, start to get a good number of shots come through. It's blast, so if it's a larger horde type unit, then you can start maxing out with your shots coming through. But the main point of it is close combat. So you've got 10, 11 attacks coming through. Strength for the user, so there's no bonus going on here, so that's why you need to try and bump your strength up as much as possible. AP -3 and a straight 3 damage. So no nonsense with the damage, you just know it's going to be damage 3 coming through every time. So I think they're dangerous, they're quick, super quick for monsters and Carnifexes. Able to move up the board very quickly indeed. With Onslaught, your potential of 11-inch move, plus your advance and the potential to charge, so they can move very quickly indeed. So on the first turn of the game, usually I'll move them up the board into position as quick as possible, try and hide them, and if I can reach the middle ground and keep them safe as much as possible when they're ready to pounce. If the opponent comes towards them, I can counter-attack, or if the opponent holds where they are and doesn't come forwards, then I can go after them with a really good 10, 11-inch move, which is a real good distance across the board. So threat range for these is superb. If the opponent is going to go after them, they're tough, durable, they can absorb damage, 2 up save, all of that is really good. And if they do full and are taken out, then it's just a 140 point investment with those. So I think they're excellent, and they'll happily charge into pretty much anything. Characters will be in trouble, monsters, vehicles will be in trouble, and heavy infantry, regular infantry will be in trouble as well. So I think it's a good all-round killer. Screamer killer Carnifex. So there's a lot of Tyranid players down through the years, always been big fans of the Carnifex. So I've always really liked them. So it's great to see them actually having some potency here, and seeing the reaction from opponents is that they are intimidating. So they're back with that effect that they used to have a number of editions ago. So good to see the Carnifex is in a good place at the moment for 9th edition. So adding all that together, that is my list. It looks quite densely packed. When it spreads out on the board, remember plus the other 10 of those, it's quite a presence of it on the table. So I've got those elements going on. I've got that link in between with the Neurothrope. I've got the objective grabbing board control blob here with all the gaunts, and the big mama here to spawn a new Termagant unit and to repair damaged units as well. Then at the back I've got the artillery pieces to provide really decent firepower support, and then for the assault 5 Carnifexes here, 2 of them to provide decent firepower, but all 5 of them potent enough in close combat, and then to back them up to lead them into the fight is the Decapitator himself, the Swarmlord. So it's there is a mean streak to this list here, which I'm liking the vibe with it at the moment. It comes to, correct me if I'm wrong, 1998 points. So do let us know what you think of the list in the comments section. It'd be great to hear your comments and feedback, what changes you've made. One of the changes I've suggested is to drop the Exocrine. I would lose some artillery firepower, so you need to think carefully about how to replace that. One of the options I've thought about is Tyrant Guard, if I'm allowed to, I think I'm allowed to take them for the Swarmlord, to protect him, because he does get shot at, so some Tyrant Guard would help preserve him on the board. That would add to his potency for sure, but I lose the firepower, so something to think about. I'm not sure what other kind of firepower would be best to replace him, maybe a Tyrannofex, but I'm not sure. That's sort of low shot, high caliber. This one's more shots, so useful against like heavy infantry, Gravis, Primaris type units. And as mentioned, feel free to copy this list entirely. It'd be great to hear feedback from people that have used it, or you can use elements from it. By all means, go ahead and do that. It'd be great to hear back from you in the comments section, or if you're a channel member over on the Discord server, you can share your own comments, feedback, pictures from battle reports and so on. You can share over on the SS82 community. So that is the final list here for the Tyranids. I'm about to play some warm-up games, but I reckon I'm going to put them into the league, so we'll see how well they do. Who knows, it could be the Tyranids crowned king for our season battle reports. Do check out the channel sponsor, link for them in the video description below for discount 40k available from them. That's the video, thanks for watching, and tune in next time.